master's hands for twiddling the strings of moral right and wrong.
To me, it's a way of life.
This season, we will focus on the importance of the device attached to every hand. Welcome to the Shepherd's Cast. This content may not be suitable for some listeners. Good morning, good evening, and good night, my flock. Welcome to the second season of the Shepherd's Cast. I would love to jump right into the episode and share this new story and new idea with you. But before I do that, we have a lot to talk about. Not only are we celebrating the second season of the podcast, we are celebrating the release of Nightmares of a Shepherd. It is now available on Amazon and will be available on Barnes & Noble very soon as I get my hardcover proof. I haven't received my author copies yet, but I've had people come up to me to sign the book, and man, is it cool. It's so cool to see it in person, and it's just real, it's tangible. I can touch the book, I can see it, it exists. If you haven't purchased the book yet, please go and do so. As I said, available on Amazon, available on Barnes & Noble. There's two main differences between printings that I'd like to talk about. A is the quality. I might do a video on comparing the qualities at some point once I finally have all of the copies of the book, because I haven't received my author copies yet. All of you have gotten the book before me, so enjoy that. Anyway, the quality. The paperback proofs between Amazon and Barnes & Noble look pretty identical, minus the color differences on the cover. I would say that Barnes & Noble's cover is just a little bit more crisp. However, it's not really that noticeable. Either copy of the book is fine. If you really do want that extra little bit of quality, go for it. But I will warn you, the Barnes & Noble print is more expensive. It's an extra $2 for the book. So, $15, $17, the choice is yours. Now, where the big difference comes into play is the hardcover. The Amazon hardcover is just a normal case print, whereas the Barnes & Noble hardcover has a full dust jacket. Once again, you're looking at a larger price difference. The Amazon hardcover is $23, whereas the Barnes & Noble hardcover with the dust jacket, I believe, is $27, $28, $29. It's pushing the $30 mark, if I remember correctly. Also, if you like ebook, it is available on ebook at Amazon for $3.99. Or $4.99, I don't remember which. In total, the collection ended up being over 400 pages, which, if you ask me, is a pretty sizable first publication. And man, was it a lot of work. You guys heard me talk about how much work it was through the 2 keeper excerpts we did, but even after those episodes, there was still a crap ton more work that went into this thing. As always, thanks to Olivia for the book cover and all the help getting the formatting correct. Speaking of book covers, you are now looking at V.I.M's book cover as the art for this episode and for this podcast in general. This will be the front cover of V.I.M when it is released a couple months down the line. I say a couple months, but I think we might be riding this season till December. Oh, I almost forgot. If you don't want to buy through a mass retailer, you can buy through me personally if you know you're going to see me in person or something like that. I should have copies of the book with me and the ability to sell them. I worked really hard to get my sales tax license and to get a Square POS system set up. And honestly, that's the best way for me to make my money as a self-published author. I'll be pretty open with you guys. The royalty rate for any copy of the book, whether it's the ebook, the paperback, the hardcover, or the paperback or hardcover from Barnes & Noble, is about $3. I make about $3 per copy sold. If you want me to make more, you can buy a copy of the book through me, and I will make $5 to $6 a copy. If you don't want to go through the hassle of finding me, that's fine. Buy it online. I'm happy either way. As long as this book starts selling, I am happy. Honestly, it's not even financially going to be that great. It's not the finances that matter to me. It is the fact that I'm finally getting a tangible book out to people. So, everything I just talked about pretty much wraps up Nightmares of a Shepherd entirely. The only couple things that are left to do are to confirm my Barnes & Noble prints and officially publish it through Barnes & Noble, because we're not there yet. I haven't received my hardcover with the dust jacket proof. And I would also like to upload through Ingram Spark. If I want to do live shows at libraries or local bookstores, having the ability to sell them books wholesale seems very important. And Ingram Sparks offers that as an option through their website. I can give a wholesale discount for stores to go on and buy wholesale. Without that, I'm left doing consignment or something of that nature at every store I go to, and I just want to have all the options available for whatever that store's preference is. That brings me to talking about our next publication, Heaper. I think it is the next thing that has to get off of my plate before I can start another side project. I'm doing a 1 year later edit through it, and then I'm going to send it out to beta readers. I have a couple people volunteered already to beta read the manuscript, but I really am just making sure there's no plot holes, nothing like that, because I made myself quite a convoluted plot, which is good. I like busy, convoluted plots. It's my favorite thing, but I have to be thorough with making sure all of the holes are filled. Speaking of Heaper, quick shout out to Cheyenne, who drew some fan art of Tira after hearing her description on one of the excerpts we read. It's really cool to see one of my characters in art form. If I remember, I will upload it to my TikTok or maybe my website as a blog post. Speaking of support, I would also like to thank everyone who bought a t-shirt. I have all sorts of pictures of people wearing the shirts, and I think it'll make a cool presentation for live events and things like that. If you haven't seen the shirts, go over to my TikTok. You can see them there. Alright, I think that covers all of the announcements for everything besides V.I.M. I want to take a moment to talk about what we're about to get into before we actually start the episode. So, what you are about to hear is the introduction of the anthology. Yes, you heard me right, we are doing an anthology. We are keeping a very similar format to the last season, where each individual story will be its own episode or multi-part episode, but we will also have interludes and connecting pieces in between these stories that contribute to one overarching storyline. One other thing that this season is going to offer is a lot more voice acting. Not just me, personally, but I have a confirmed 5 additional people that are willing to come on the show and do voices for different characters. I will give the names of these people once they are officially on an episode, in the event that we end up not aligning schedule-wise and getting one of those people. I think it'll add a lot of extra depth, just like someone like you on the first season of the podcast. I really want to get into talking about the content of this episode, but I have to keep myself contained and not spoil anything before you all hear it. So, without further ado, welcome to the second season of the podcast, and here is the introduction to the anthology, V.I.M. A buzzing anticipation filled the air. In the distance, through a screen a million miles from the point of a dark tunnel, a small child lunges at a rug and taps on the glass at the end of that tunnel. It sparks a fizzle in the black void, and the viewer from within becomes the consumer on the outside. The suspense hangs a hint of excitement in the booting sequence, and goose flesh ascends the spine. Impatience. Curtain parting, crowd cheering, and Dandy takes the stage. An eloquent yellow and green animation with a wide, overly giddy smile revels in the sound of loving fans. His wide hair is the petals of his floral being, and his thin stature is the stem of that very plant. Why would a flower wear a suit? Wonders the parent of that excited child. Is a dandelion even a flower? They are ignorant of that child's love for the show. They are outdated, understanding not the value of a lesson born in blinding vibrance. The cartoons of old, nothing more than violence and comedic milking, time and time again. The thoughts of the unfashionable are muted by song, the same song that had marked the flower's entrance since before the child was born. It's Dandy. Dandy's here to stay. It's Dandy. Dandy's here to play. Dandy teaches lessons to all the future grown. Another life lesson on your couch at home. The song came from the style of those that snapped and whistled 100 years before, and only the great-grandparents of that child could give it the title doo-wop. They would have noted the similarity of the animation style as well, intentionally grainy, meant to mimic the technology of that time.
"Hello, kids!"
exclaimed the flower as he took the podium at center stage. There was a cloud of exclamation marks surrounding the flower as he jumped backwards, startled by the feedback of the microphone. This was followed by a poofy cloud of smoke emanating from behind the podium. Dandy had fallen backwards. That same great-grandparent that wondered if it was meant to mimic such a time feels that the old cartoons such as Popeye, The Porky Pig Show, or Steamboat Willie is now convinced that the style is intentional. Dandy stood and tapped the microphone, his movements exaggerated as if he were a series of drawings, not a modern animation. His smile was so wide a caricature couldn't do it justice. What a world to live in. In the post-COVID era, there was a resurgence of vinyl and a strong attachment to the way things used to be, a strong attachment to not forgetting the origin of music. Now, there was a show that captured the heart and soul of original animation.
"Dear me, seems that I have wilted."
The voice was just as grainy, but the high pitch and exclamation made it seem not so noticeable. The crowd that laughed, however, was so muted it felt that they truly were in a million-mile black tunnel. The child viewing into the tunnel, attached to the rug like a statically clung sock, also laughed, which caused the questioning parent to smile.
"I fear it has been far too long since I have seen all my friends."
Dandy placed his white-gloved hands on the podium, and his droll elbows pointed outward like he was trying his best to be the biggest man behind the biggest desk as the CEO for the biggest corporation.
"I've just been weeding my hair out because I've been waiting for so long."
He pulled at his yellow petals.
"But now that you're here, we can start speaking about all the new lessons I have. Get ready, kids, because this season's going to be a dandy."
He winked to the crowd, which caused another spurt of distorted laughter.
"This season, we will focus on the importance of the device attached to every hand and how it is used properly as a tool."
A projector screen dropped from the ceiling, startling the flower once more. However, he quickly regained his bearings and straightened the coat of his jacket. As the projection flickered onto the screen, he extended a pointer and began gesturing to a cellular phone.
"When the smartphone first purged society, nobody knew how to use it properly. But you see, everyone needs a cell phone. It can be used as a tool in several ways. Each episode this season, we will cover a different use, and at the end, you will be able to weed out all those bad decisions.
He winked and drew his cell phone from his pocket.
Oh, what's this? It seems I'm getting a call.
The flower tapped his obnoxiously large finger against his chin as he answered.
Hello? Who's this? We're going to cover what?
There was high-pitched babble interrupting each of his sentences, mimicking a voice on the other side of the phone.
All right, I'll let them know.
The dandelion tossed the cell phone over his shoulder. It crashed, the sound of a shrieking cat causing the audience to erupt once more.
Well, children, it seems that I've just been given today's topic. We will go over the importance of self-promotion in social media. I'll see you there.
The camera rapidly zoomed past Dandy into the blackness between the partially opened red curtains, and the scene shifted. It was a house, small and yellow, perched atop a rolling hill, nothing around it but more hills and tall, swaying grass littered with dandelions. Dandy opened the door to his house and came out from the inside. His black suit had been replaced by a cooking apron.
Hi, friends. Long time no see. Did you know that I started my own baking business?
Dandy pulled his hands from behind his back. He had been hiding a pair of oven mitts and an entire raspberry pie.
All these goodies would have went to waste had I not marketed myself with the power of social media.
Dandy disappeared, and the screen was replaced with a social media page. It was a website marketing Dandy's delicacies, and the motto was, "Whether it's flour or flour, you'll have some dandy power." The screen scrolled down, showing all the positive reviews for Dandy's desserts.
I just can't get enough of the floral funnel cake,
said one character. It was a daffodil.
I am partial to the popping flavor in the pecan pie,
said another. It was a penguin. The page continued to scroll on its own accord. As Dandy explained its contents, he sourced the statistics of self-promotion through social media. Boring, it would have put a normal child to sleep, but not the kids who watched Dandy. He had a charm that could have been utilized by so many cartoons for so many years, an intelligent mix of education and awe that brainwashed the children with life skills to survive modern America. That's when something different happened. Something that Dandy hadn't seen in nearly 4 decades of service to those hypnotized children. The screen flickered. The everlasting string of information was snipped by someone, somewhere, and the black and white snow swept Dandy away. When the show returned, there was no vibrant color, no house on top of a hill, no green grass, just an empty wooden frame standing on a knoll of wilted grass. What remained of the children's animated friend was a stem with emptiness and what used to be friendly eyes. Smile turned into drooling disbelief. Hair of yellow petal turned to white tufts blowing in a sourceless wind. And voice turned to an echoing groan of pain. Dandy stared at the audience directly. The entire animation had made an unscheduled stop in a time period where colored television was not relevant.
V.I.M.
The groan stopped, and Dandy repeated the senseless word with a voice that didn't belong to him. It was scratchy, a demonic form of the beloved character, and one could almost hear that satanic call. Deep beneath the layers of that voice there was a whisper that begged the impressionable children to come closer.
Do not change the channel, boys and girls. Dandy. Dandy. Dandy.
He said the name of the flower, as if he had just discovered it for the first time and despised its very nature.
Dandy has taken a nap, a long walk off a short pier, a dangle from a strong noose,
There was a buffering moment of indecision, a lull in the string of suicidal thoughts. The screen skipped repeating a singular letter, allowing some of the parents to change the channel and salvage the sweet dreams of their young. However, some weren't present in the room, some didn't see the poison seeping through the blood-brain barrier.
There's a lesson that Dandy doesn't wish to teach, but we all must know. We must. Social media teaches bad habits, little kidneys. Obsession over objects is a plague to this nation, and I say it must end. It must end. It must. We must. It must. We must. It must. We must.
Each pause was met with a pounding so violent it shook the hearts of those young children that watched from beyond. Then there was a horrific scene, a cut to real footage showing 3 people chained to wooden chairs. The room was dark, empty, besides the spotlights to their sides. However, it wasn't blinding them. Their eyes were blocked by bulky, virtual reality goggles, which had their names in scrolling color across the outward-facing screens. The first was a woman named Nicole Gerald. The second, a man named George Boyle. The third, a man named Jacob Heath. They seemed unconscious, slumped into their chairs, unable to sense that they were even alive. But then, the haptic vests initiated, jolting their consciousnesses awake and casting them somewhere beyond the television's view.
Here are the abusers, children.
V.I.M did a jig into frame, overlaying himself over the live footage.
Nicole is a fashion influencer, which is an honest trade, but she is fake. She took the easy way out and began selling pictures of herself to pay the bills. A token of sexuality and a horrendous use of the power at her fingertips. Then there is George. George plays innocent pranks on the public to market his product, Devil's Juice. An energy drink filled with lies is what it is. He stages his videos. It's a lie. A lie. A lie. Then, Jacob is the worst. Jacob teaches children, just like our napping friend Dandy. But oh, what is this? It's plagiarism. All his work doesn't belong to him. However, don't weep for them, children. They may have been too late for Dandy's lesson, but V.I.M's lesson.
There was no need for him to finish the sentence.
Let's tune in.
And welcome back. I know, how dare I start the season on a cliffhanger. Honestly, it's just to get you excited, get you ready to come back for more. I'm just kidding. That was not my intention. This entire introduction was really to showcase what kind of writing I will be doing in this season. I'm really getting to play with my creativity here and truly design something unique. I want you to all be here for this duality of V.I.M versus Dandy, a children's cartoon versus a serial killer / torturer. You've seen the first characters that will be participating in the games. I have not figured out who is voicing those 3 characters yet, but you will get to see them participate in something that has a lot to do with the episode of Dandy we just watched. Listen to. This first game, I believe, is going to be split into 3 rounds, which will be covered over either 2 or 3 episodes. The first round is already written, and now I know you're doubly upset because you know there's more and I am purposefully not reading it, but hey, we gotta slow this roll, slow the content down. We gotta make sure everybody's here and present, ready for this season to start. The good news is I will have an episode next week because it's already written. So there is no moral, nothing to talk about yet, really, in terms of what the message is, but there definitely will be by the time we get to the end of this game. And I guess I should cover a little bit with what's going on in terms of the messages this season. There's not going to be a condition or a mental disorder or an addiction we're going to talk about in every episode. At the end of every story, we're going to talk about statistics of how social media is influenced people and certain things in a positive and negative way. Again, I'm not putting any personal beliefs into anything that I am talking about here. I'm really just trying to explain it from both perspectives, really. I think that's the point of this entire season. In addition, we are also going to bring those people that were part of the episodes in and get their take on the story so far, get some things they want to talk about playing these characters. So it's not just me talking into this microphone after the story has been performed. All right, I think that about sums up this episode. Before I go, please tell your friends, tell your family, get everybody back on board with the podcast because we are ramping up production again. It's a new season, new horrors, new thrills, and a new level of creativity. Let's get the Shepherd cast moving once more. Buy my book if you haven't already. And as always, may the flock disperse until we congregate again. Thank you. Bye.